You can already see it in the very first shot. The Infiniti Q60 is a very beautiful car. But what else? What about this car? In the exterior, interior and the driving experience? We will tell you everything about that on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars today with Thomas. We're going to examine all of this today in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! The Infiniti Q60 is the Coupé version of the Q50 mid-size sedan, and it offers a real spectacular, very sensual design already in the front. I think we can all agree on that they really found something special here with a lot of different round curvy lines, and this is a different approach to the German premium manufacturers, which more design in a very sharp straight line nowadays. So I think that is a good refreshment definitely here among all of the competitors. What do you think? Do you like the front? The only thing I don't like is the 2D logo in the very front, because the sensors are hidden behind that. Maybe there would be a better solution. I always like to see a 3D logo at the front, but still have an ACC, and you can surely put it somewhere else. And here in detail the 2D logo, and I mean, this is really pathetic. Look, the structure of the front grille is painted on this here, that it's would be appearing more aligned. Maybe it works from distance, but when you look at it in close up, I mean, come on, is that really necessary? 4.66 m or 15.3 is the total length of the Infiniti Q60, and is equipped with 19-inch rims, as we can see it right now. Here still with winter tires, so if there are summer tires mounted, they will appear a little bit smaller then. Also in the side profile, there are so many great design details, and also in this red, very strong red color, I really love it from design. The 2.0 T, this one here is the 2-liter turbo here in Autogefuehl, because AJ had the 3-liter one. You can also check out that review, of course. Then you can see below that there's a design outlet. I mean, it doesn't have a function here. Sometimes it has, but it serves as a chrome contrast. Then the most significant is of course the Coupé style of this car, if you also compare it to the Q50, and then this very design detail here, that is not a straight Coupé line, but has this, this flowing line here. And then you see that the very strong shoulders are evolving. So I think really a masterpiece of design also in the side profile. Or what do you think? Also in the rear, I don't see any design weaknesses. Horizontally stretched taillights make the car appear wider. The camera is right in there. There's an integrated rear wing, and also the exhaust pipes. Just the very outer ring is, additional design element, but they're really that huge. Although the 2-liter engine doesn't have the most impressive sound. That is a little bit different than with a 3-liter engine. But of course this car is from exterior design perspective really attractive, but also not too much screaming out. It's still in a very elegant way. And you can see the very thick Infiniti letters here. Infiniti has a customer group which are pretty much sticking to their brand, because they're pretty convinced that their cars are also very reliable. We always get those feedbacks, and this is surely one of the key elements here also when you're buying a sporty car. Another nice design detail, look at this, how can you call it? This design line right here that leads over to the hood, and that also brings us to the engines. And Infiniti is moving on obviously to remove the naturally aspirated engines. You can see that the inside is not as well painted as on the outside, but I mean, we can surely live with it. So a 2-liter turbo with 211 horsepower, 7.3 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour, or a 3 liter, then with 5 seconds of acceleration to 100 or 62 miles, and the 3 liter with 405 horsepower. And also big difference, the 3 liter engine comes with all-wheel drive, and this one here is just rear drive to have, you know, good sporty characteristics out of the corner. The other one is with over 400 horsepower, then also needs the front wheels to get all of the power to the ground, basically. This one here is enough from the power for the car. Consumption-wise, yeah, the 3 liter one here, I think AJ scored about 14 liters on 100 kilometers. This one here we brought to about 10. So both engines are not good in consumption, definitely not. So maybe, well, the Q50 is available as a hybrid. This one here, the Q60, not. So the Q50 I would probably recommend then as a hybrid, because with the hybrid you can still get the naturally aspirated engine in there. But it seems that, you know, for a long time they've really gone to the naturally aspirated engine, or then the combination with the hybrid. It seems to be ending right now. What's your opinion on that? The Infiniti Key, I think they should use another one than Nissan does to have the premium approach of the brand, but they don't. Then the door handles, they look pretty fancy, but they're a little bit, you know, they get a little bit stuck here sometimes, you know, I don't really know. But everything else, you know, is basically a solid build quality. Here also, I think, should be leatherette, I'm not exactly sure. Then black wood insert. Here also real metal is being used. Window controls. We got an optional Bose sound system here, which is quite okay from performance, nothing that special. Then the interior is generally in a sporty style, but you can see already from the first look, although the build quality is basically good, it is really outdated in general. The style looks as it would be, you know, 10 years ago. And you could say, oh, you know, I feel at home with this, but you can also argue, look at other new interiors, they look more forward. Also, the surfaces for the seats, which are in general very comfortable, by the way, but surface-wise, only animal skin is available. That's again something that is missing for a modern car interior. So let's get inside. And well, it is a low-sitting sports car in general. So you do have a sporty seating position, but it feels very comfortable. So the seat form in general is really pleasing, and also I think they found a good compromise between a sporty image and still yet a very cozy feeling here. The middle console is not too thick, a lot of interesting contrast stitches, and why, that's nice. The strange thing about this interior is, I mean, basically from first look it looks well sorted. Here you can also see it when the interior is turned off. Also some curvy lines right here, but it's not as fancy as we would expect from the outside, for example. There it is, Infiniti visualization. And the strange thing is here, we know that from the Q50 that the screens are split. This one here looks like a more modern or glass screen, but then again collects fingerprints. This one, the upper one, is a little bit matte. There you can better see something, it doesn't collect too much fingerprints, but the strange thing is really that those are split, and I really wonder why did they do this, to split the screens. And both are basically touch screens. Here in the lower one you control stuff, and in the upper one you see stuff. But then you can also control it here with, for example, zooming in and out, but also move in a menu, so that's a little bit redundant from the features. Automatic transmission is here with the shifting lever. Here again the rear wheel drive with a 2-liter engine. By the way, price difference 44,000 euros in Germany for this one here, and the 3-liter would be 64,000, so 20,000 euros extra price. You really have to think about if that's then really worth it. And temperature controls for both sides. This is still manually done with buttons each. The steering wheel, I think it should be the one from the Nissan GTR. It really reminded me of the Nissan GTR. We have to compare it just from the form itself, but the size is absolutely right. Analog gauges, soon more details to that. Beverage holders right there in an adaptive way that is totally okay. And the normal glove box doesn't have too much room in there. Also in the side of the doors, there's not too much room for two big bottles. Then there's also here some more space below the armrest that is fixed attached. Two USB slots we find right there. Those are basically also enough. Seat control, by the way, is electric, so you can control it from the left lower side of the seat. Also decide how the side bolsters should be appearing. And I'm 1.86 m or 6'1", and this is the headroom I still have. So also when you're a little bit taller, you can get along, but it's not the car for tall people. But from my height, I'm really perfectly okay with it still. It will look different though in the rear, I can promise you. But first, some more of the details here in the close shot. Instruments, really classic left side RPM, right side speed. In the middle one we have a digital screen, see the consumption for example. And you have to set the language separately for the middle screen and for this very tiny screen. It's a little bit strange. And it was also strange that in this very middle menu you can see so much stuff like consumption and also a compass or a lot of different information, radio. But then again, there's no digital speedometer in the middle. At least I didn't find it. I searched so long, I didn't find it. If you own a Q60 or Q50, did you have anything like this, a big digital speedometer in the middle? I didn't find it here in this menu at least, a little bit strange. So the temperature controls really come handy. You can easily also control them while driving, for example, and also good that they are split from driver and co-driver. And then I think the whole infotainment software is too complicated. You have those hot keys here. You can press menu or audio or the climate function here, just for another visualization of what you are actually doing. But it's also here in the top for the temperature. But then again, it's really strange that we have the split of, for example, here connecting your phone via Bluetooth that is possible, or then also control the GPS from here, like here, then enter here new destination, and then seeing it up there. This is also rear touch, but doesn't work that well. You see it's also lagging behind a little bit. You cannot control it that well. You can see it also not that much smartphone-like, but then you can also click here, something, but for example, new destination, but you can also do it here. So I'm not really sure. It lacks a little bit of logic, and the visualization also looks a little bit outdated. So I think it is an interesting concept, that's for sure, but surely not the best one we've seen for the infotainment solutions. The car looks so much better than the Q50 here, the Q60, the Coupé style, but then again, to get in the rear, you have to bear that. Pressing the button, you also move the seats, not only the front but also up. That's good to get the access right here, but then again you have to pass the belt holder here. That's a little bit tricky. And then you have to get in this cage here. Beverage holders you do have, but then it's really cramped in here, so that's the only way I could sit right here. And then knee room wise, let's see if the seat will kill me. I'm looking forward to that. Oh, please don't kill me. Yeah. So if I sit a little bit sideways or move my knees a little bit to the outside, then I could sit in knee room wise. Not really though, if I would put them really upright. I mean, for a short ride, for a very short ride, it's okay. But other than that, more for children in the back here. You do have ISOFIX on both of the seats. So that you can do at least. Other than that, this is the disadvantage, that you have such a spectacular exterior design. If you want more room, then you should probably then go again for the Q50. The trunk you can open with the key fob, or also here with this button. This is very well hidden. And here we go. And of course, well, the room we can put stuff in is actually quite okay, but it's very shallow. So not too much versatility here. Again, the Q50 is better in this case, but You know, this is the disadvantage again of a beauty. And then you can pull this strap. By the way, below here, this one is just for a first aid kit and stuff. And well, can I push the seat from here? Yeah, actually that's possible. So interesting. And if we take a look at it from the interior, I mean it's quite okay for longer things. Also, you can use a middle console maybe if you can secure some things. It gives you a little bit flexibility back then, at least. Welcome to the driving part, and I'll put the car in the sport mode with the drive selector and the middle console. And the sport mode will give a little bit more throttle input. You see the reaction from this turbo engine is quite good. Of course, it takes a little while to shift down. In general, for this very car, this engine is definitely powerful enough if you're thinking about the 2 or the 3 liter. So, or what about 100 to 120? Plop, that's it. Of course, the 3 liter version that was tested by AJ has definitely more power. The figure difference again was 7.3 seconds to 100 with this one, and 5 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour with the 3 liter engine. You do feel that, of course, but in general, for the weight of the car and for the general characteristics, this one here, the smaller turbo engine, would be sufficient. The good thing is that you don't pay too much money for it. Changing a lane, I mean, it is definitely fun to drive the car. You also feel the steering gets a little bit stiffer when you drive faster. And just remember, the so-called steer-by-wire system means, with Infiniti, the same with the Q50, that there's no physical connection between the steering wheel and the actual steering column that leads then ultimately to the wheels. So we're just doing everything electronically. So we give an input here, the car realizes that, and the electronic input of what we are doing is directed then to the wheels, and the wheels are being turned. And yes, I mean, for such a system, they really tuned it very well, and the Q60 is also a little bit more direct than the Q50 in this case, but still you do feel the difference to a normal steering column that is an assist by electronics. So it's not feeling like it would be the most natural steering. In general, the advantage is you can really vary it as you wish, as the manufacturer wants to, and when you want to park this car somewhere, it's very easy to turn the steering wheel, so you don't need much power. Then again, at higher speeds or for sporty riding, it can become maybe a little bit loose in the feeling. What I realized when finding a parking spot, something like that the turning circle is really limited. So we have to go back and forth quite often sometimes. So I think that should have been improved. However, it's still fun to drive the car. You have a relatively low seating position, and also it conveys a sporty riding feel. Also, when you look to the front, you know, the curve above the headlights, for example, and you know that the whole cockpit has a sporty appeal, definitely. Again, as we pointed out in the interior part, also when driving, you do get a feeling that is somehow acquainted, because this interior is really outdated. You could really say so, because, you know, if we would met such an interior 10 years ago in a car, that also would have been realistic. Then again, you know, if you don't want something new and say, I want to stick with the things I know, then you could actually turn it into a positive. Other than that, the riding comfort is very good. That is really pleasing. Although we don't have any choice for the seat surfaces, the seat form itself, although it's a sporty one, it's really comfortable, so I can recommend it for the long-term haul. That's no problem. And yet again, sporty riding is also in a way guaranteed that you can have enough fun. The suspension, however, is more set to have comfort also in the straight run. That has something to do because this car here is mainly made for the American market with low speed limits, long runs just in a straight line. And so we quite often have that the cars that are mainly built for European market or built from the European market have this rather sporty, more direct approach, also suspension-wise, higher speeds also on the motorways. And then those cars that are thought for Japanese or US market mainly, they say, okay, a little bit more comfort. They rather set the cruise control, drive for 2-3 hours, maybe with the same speed, just in a rather straight line through the desert or something like that. And you can really understand this approach. And again, when you argue if it's good or bad, it just depends on what you really prefer. So if you compare this, for example, with a competitor with a 4 Series Coupé, for example, BMW, then the 4 Series Coupé is definitely the sportier ride. And this one here definitely wants to compete with that. But again, if you say, 4 Series Coupé feels too stiff for me, then you could also, for example, say, I have the more comfortable ride with this one here. As for the overview to the rear, although the rear window is very flat, still reasonable. The front and the sides, it's not that you would be disappointed not seeing enough or something. To the rear, I mean, there's a very small window just to the rear side view, just a very small window, so that's a little bit limited. The windows, they are the side mirrors, they are split, that you have less blind spot, but you can see it right here, you also have a blind spot warner. And if you at the same time hit the turning indicators, then the light is also flashing, not only appearing but also flashing. And you've maybe also heard it in a short while, there was an acoustic warning, and I think that's a good solution to have both, as it's a very important safety feature for sure. And that one is also working pretty well so far. We can soon approach the Autobahn again and test it once again. Then we also have cruise control. Is also an adaptive one, ACC, with keeping the distance to the car in front of us. That worked well so far too. We just have to test it. Let's see if we get a chance to what about decelerating to 0, if that is also working then. Sound installation, at the moment we're driving just something about 70 kilometers an hour, and I don't have to raise my voice that much. I also had some faster Autobahn rides with this car in the last couple of days, and I think it was pretty solid. So everything you see, feel is basically very solid, besides the little outdated interior. I mean, it's still solid, but yet again a little bit outdated. So in sport mode again, let's go from 80 to 100. Took again, yeah, that was 110 now almost. You see, the engine does take a while. Then, by the way, in standard mode, the driving modes don't change too much. They change a little bit, that's for sure. So check again the blind spot monitor. Yeah, see the light was flashing there, but also appeared a little bit late, I think. So that was also, there are two philosophies. We've also experienced that with Peugeot, that sometimes the manufacturers say it should appear just in a second where the car is in the blind spot, but other systems, especially for example the one Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen Group, so I think rather majority of the systems, they say it should appear before, so that the car already signals there's someone coming from behind, not exactly, that you have the time to think. I think that the latter one is the right approach. So very calm riding here on the motorway, 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour. And this will be in most countries, a normal speed, also normal higher speed. And the car is really very calm, sound-wise and also suspension-wise, and how the whole car is feeling. You have a good control over the car. So overall they have built a very good car as for the driving characteristics. Again, the outside, the exterior, it looks sportier, the car, than it actually is. So sometimes we have, the opposite. Or for example, the most extreme example here. It is actually fun to drive the car, even if the suspension is a little bit softer. But I wouldn't, again, in most of situations you have more advantages from comfort than from a very sporty part. So I think for most customers this will be an advantage, basically. So I was talking of the most fierce example, for example the BMW i3. From the outside it looks like the unsportiest car ever, but it's super sporty, when you drive it. And here it's a little bit other way around. It looks so great, so agile, so dynamic, but it's, reasonable sporty, nothing more. Here again, by the way, you see you do have direct commands from the steering wheel, even though it doesn't feel in a most natural way, but that somehow creates an arcade feeling or racing game feeling, and so you can have fun, maybe just in a rather computer game sense. But if you're used to that, playing some of the games, maybe you think that's more natural to you than someone who has got to know car driving as it was totally manual, for example. Yeah, I think overall they, especially driving wise, they put a good package there. Mentioned it earlier, seat surfaces, a little bit spiced up interior, and also about the two screens. Especially when driving, it can get a little bit distracting when you sometimes have to get used to it, really, that you know which screen to control. And the best thing is always when we start to learn a car and drive for the very first time and do search something in the infotainment system from the functions, sometimes maybe even where during the first ride, when the system is really good, you directly find these functions intuitive enough, and that's it. And for example here about the two screen split, I know it from the Q50, but all other cars do not have it. And then I was searching how to cancel the route, when there was GPS going on, and I didn't find it. To search everything in the screen, all the minutes, and didn't really find it. Till I realized, wait a minute, cancel route is in the second screen below. And so here you always have to think about, wait a minute, which function is in which screen? And that's especially while driving, this can be a little distracting. But it will be less, of course, if you get to learn the car. But again, I always think that for those functions, it should not be necessary to learn a car. It should be better integrated from the beginning on. So a pretty relaxing ride with the Q50. I think that is one of the key facts. And now to our conclusion for today. No doubt, such a beautiful car, one of my favorites at the moment for sure, especially because they are different in the design than the competitors. The interior, basically from a solid build quality, but is really outdated. They have to do something about that. They have to introduce new seat surfaces which are more sustainable. They have to update the screen setup, maybe make one bigger screen with the new infotainment software, and also having some more other modern elements there. I think that is actually, that can be done. But thing is, it's a relatively new car, but then it was based on the Q50, which is then a little bit older. So we can maybe expect then with a new Q50 then that will get a new interior when this one will be presented in a very new generation. Driving wise, it's definitely very pleasant, a very comfortable car for sure, also good for long-term rides. And so you can have a very sporty looking car without feeling the pain in your lower back. That's something. But then again, if you want a very dynamic mid-size coupe, then you should probably go to the competitors. If you more appreciate the comfort, then you'll ride on with this one. So overall, a good car, definitely, solid ride, with the things to improve we mentioned. And of course, we want to hear your opinion on the car today, and also check out AJ's view on the car then with the 3-liter engine in combination. I would definitely see a naturally aspirated engine still in this car, or maybe also a hybrid. It's not really available yet, but you know, who knows? Maybe there will also be a hybrid for the Q60 one day. I would really appreciate that. Why not? Generally, yeah, the 3-liter engine is more fun for sure, but then again, even higher consumption. So you also have to live with that. Thank you very much for tuning in to Autogefühl, and also see you at the very next episode.